ich werde ja in der laufenden Woche selber Streams machen, wo es einmal darum gehen wird, einmal ist es so, ja, wir gehen 90er, 2000er und 2010er Jahre lang. Was gab's da so videospieltechnisch? Was gab's da Serien- und Filmtechnisch? Was gab's da musiktechnisch? So Nostalgie pur, habe ich irgendwie wieder Bock drauf, keine Ahnung. Aber wir werden auch einen Stream machen, wo es dann darum geht, so, wie war dieses Jahr persönlich, nerdtechnisch im Sinne von Videospiele, Serien, Filme, eventuell auch Musik, wobei Musik eher, und wie wird das nächste Jahr persönlich, nerdtechnisch? Ihr wisst, ne? Deshalb können wir uns jetzt hier ein bisschen drauf vorbereiten. Vielleicht, ich persönlich hatte keine riesige Enttäuschung, aber dazu möchte ich noch nichts sagen. 10 Games that sucked in 2023. Das schauen wir uns jetzt an von Gameranx. Ich würde sagen, let's go.
2023 has been a monster year for gaming, but it's also given us some real...
Ich gehe davon aus, dass es hier Gollum geben wird, dass es hier, also von den Bildern her muss es ja alleine das sein, dass es hier dieses Kong-Spiel geben wird und Forspoken haben wir ja auch schon gesehen. Von daher, ja.
Monsters. Some doozies, if you will. And today we're going to talk about how mistakes have been made. Hi folks, it's Falcon and today on Gameranx, 10 games that suck.
Redfall, das andere weiß ich nicht mal. Kleine Antwort gleich vorweg. Ich werde nicht so die schlechtesten Spiele in dem Sinne jetzt wie hier machen, objektiv gesehen. Ich würde dann eher über Enttäuschungen reden, so Sachen, die mich enttäuscht haben. Zum Beispiel auch Spielveröffentlichungen, die mich enttäuscht haben. Ich kann ja hier schon mal sagen, Forspoken, aus anderen Gründen, die werden hier wahrscheinlich angemerkt. Ja.
In 2023. We're gonna start off with number 10, an obvious one that you will not be surprised by one bit.
Erstens, warum schreit er plötzlich so? Und zweitens, warum ist das nicht auf 1? Ich dachte, das wäre jetzt auf 1.
It's Skull Island Rise of Kong. Published by the appropriately titled Game Mill. I'm sure you realize this won't be the...
Da sagen doch viele, dass es sogar noch schlechter ist als Gollum. Und dass niemand damit gerechnet hätte, dass es noch ein schlechteres Spiel geben wird als Gollum. Und es passiert ist durch Skull Island Rise of Kong.
Game Mill game we cover today. I probably didn't even need to say that, but same goes for just everything wrong with this game. You see it for about a second and you realize that, oh, this one's got problems. So
es sieht halt auch scheiße aus, ne?
Being full of bugs and stuff, which that's pretty normal for games now, sadly. It's also not full of like basically anything else. This is one boring ass game. You play as interchangeable members of the Kong family from time to time, which the way I worded that made it sound way more interesting than it is.
Ja, das Spielkonzept rein theoretisch ist gar nicht mal so schlecht. Du bist ein kleiner Kong und musst dann erwachsen werden und musst dann halt überleben auf Kong Island, auf Skull Island. Und wie machst du das und so weiter? Ist eigentlich rein theoretisch cool. Nur das Konzept haben sie genommen und dann sich einfach gedacht, okay, wir klatschen einfach Gegner daran und du musst halt dieses Level überstehen, dann wirst du älter und dann musst du dieses Level überstehen, wirst du älter und dann musst du dieses Level überstehen, dann bist du älter.
It's got really, really bad graphics. It's one of those games where you can say like, oh, hey, remember the Dreamcast and how it looked better than this? It proves that just pushing a decent amount of polygons, because I know that these Kong models have got more polygons than anything from the 90s, but it shows that that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. There's got to be some flair, some style, some art design, you know? Speaking of the art design, remember how we can't really tell if Kong is supposed to be big or small because there's big trees and little trees? There's various things that indicate that he is a normal gorilla in scale, and there's various things that indicate he is a large gorilla in scale. It is not consistent with its art.
Ja, hier sehe ich nicht, ob der groß oder klein ist.
Which it's probably, you know, reused assets, which isn't automatically bad, but there's just nothing here. Like, there's some platforming elements. They're bad. There's some combat. It's, I guess, okay for about 5 or 6 seconds. Once you've cleared through that first enemy and gone on to the second, though, you know the extent of its, capabilities. Also, the game is very short. It's 2-3 hours, and that'll be $40, please. One weird thing I thought was I saw a lot of reviews that criticized the replay value on this game. And yeah, there is a lack of replay value, but like it's because it's a game that sucks. Why would you replay a game that sucks? I don't care what kinds of things they throw into the post game to keep you coming back. I don't care if there is or isn't a post game when the game is bad, you know?
Oh ja, der Gegner braucht ja viel zu lange, um anzugreifen.
It's very bad. The one saving grace is that a lot of the Kong faces are beyond hilarious. I'm surprised they have not been bigger memes, honestly. And number 9 is the day
Was? Wieso ist das? Das wäre meine Nummer 1. The Day Before Scam.
Before, which, I mean, we've talked about the day before. I would highly recommend you go to our videos about the day before full breakdown of the problems here. But even when things seem to be going right for this game, I always had that spidey sense in the back of my head saying, you know, we do our big game roundups every month. Like, go back to that for the month, and you'll see that I'm kind of, well, it's coming out. Kind of surprised by that. But also, I don't know about this one. And that turned out to be very kind, a very generous, preemptive kind of expression of nervousness regarding this game. Like, where do you start? The technical problems? There's a ton of technical problems. But let's say there's no technical problems. The day before is still the day before. The gameplay mechanics, not good. It's an extraction shooter and not a good one. The shooting is not...
Ich meine, wir skippen The Day Before mal eben, weil wir haben jetzt genug Videos davon jetzt erstmal gesehen. Wir gehen hier hin.
It's Game Mill. I told you we'd cover more than one Game Mill game. It's almost like they were just churning them things out indiscriminately.
Ich bin ehrlich, ich habe davon nichts mitbekommen von einem. Also irgendwie wusste ich, dass es ein Walking Dead Game gibt, aber ich habe von dem nichts mitbekommen. Ich dachte, das wäre halt wieder so ein Mobile-Game oder sowas gewesen.
Mill for games.
Und ich meine, wenn man diese Bilder sieht, kann man meine Vermutung doch verstehen, oder? Dass es für mich ein Mobile-Game sein könnte.
In terms of complexity, I do have to say, there's a lot more going on in the Walking Dead Destinies than there is in Kong Skull Island thing. That doesn't mean it's good, though. This is a very repetitive game. They throw in a bunch of these wonky...
Ja, aber warum packt ihr Skull, Kong und The Day Before hier auf 9 und 10? Das sind für mich 1 und 2.
Goofy little decision systems at you to make it seem like there's a story. And to be fair, you can use it to do some interesting things, but it also kind of doesn't have particularly real consequences. Like if you don't kill a character that's, you know, killed in the mainline story, and they just usually end up filling up some other character's role later, rather than being, you know, somehow a new story branch where different things happen.
Rein theoretisch wäre das nämlich richtig geil gewesen, wenn man hier wirklich entscheiden konnte, soll Shane sterben? Shane sterben oder Rick? Weil hier stirbt ja in der Serie Shane. Spoiler Alert. Wäre es halt interessant gewesen, allein dadurch, wenn wirklich Shane nicht sterben würde, sondern hier in dieser Situation Rick, dass man das auswählen könnte. Ja.
If you don't kill a character that's, you know, killed in the mainline story, and they just usually end up filling up some other character's role later, rather than being, you know, somehow a new story branch where different things happen. Combat's bad, maybe a little better than Kong, but not by virtue of it feeling better. In terms of the melee, I think Skull Island feels a little bit better than this. However, this has firearms, and the firearms are a respite for a few moments until you realize that they don't get better. Then they're just kind of...
Die Grafik sieht auch so schlecht aus. Sieht halt wie ein Spiel von 2000 aus.
Dull. The AI's bad. The graphics are bad. The performance, weirdly enough, despite the simplicity of the graphics, is also bad. Oh, you know what else is bad? Them cutscenes. And I'm not just talking about how, like, there's no animation. I'm talking about how bad they are. They are bad. sometimes laughably bad. The lack of animation certainly contributes to that, but they're not acted well, they're very awkward, and then you throw in that animation, so there's no actual action for the most part. I mean, a couple of scenes are weirdly animated, but most aren't. Oh yeah, and smoke is the same thing as grass. When it comes to stealth. I know that, it's easy to criticize games for making tall grass essentially an invincibility thing, but smoke is much weirder as that, and they got it here as that. And number 7 is Redfall.
Ja, das war, von dem Spiel habe ich nichts mitbekommen und es wundert mich nicht, von dem, was ich jetzt gesehen habe, dass dieses Spiel einfach nur schlecht ist.
Alright, so now we're starting to get into our legitimate disappointments. Redfall is a game.
Das ist wirklich auch eine Enttäuschung. Und darüber könnte ich auch dann im Stream sprechen, in dem kommenden Stream sprechen. Das ist wirklich eine Enttäuschung. Ich hatte mich auf das Spiel gefreut, ehrlich gesagt.
And I called it. There's a few deep dives out there now about the creation of this game, and it ended up with a lot of people just leaving the studio straight up. It has irrevocably changed the makeup of Arcane Studios Austin. They are no longer the developers behind. You see, what this thing is some suit said, hey, you got to make a live service game. All right? That's what you got to do. You're Arcane Studios. You made Dishonored. You made Prey. You made Deathloop. You guys are friggin' amazing. If you make a live service game, it'll be infinite money for us forever. And they were like, all right, let's come up with ideas.
Aber hat er gerade gesagt, Arcane Austin? Erstmal wusste ich nicht, dass es ein zweites Arcane gibt, weil ich kenne nur dieses Arcane Lyon, welches eben Deathloop, Dishonored, Prey gemacht hat. Und dann ist halt die Frage, was hat Arcane Austin gemacht?
For this. And they're like, okay, vampires in town, that's kind of cool. That sounds kind of cool. And then they realized really quickly that it was not possible for them to make the kind of game that they wanted to make and have it be a live service game. So basically, morale was really bad, and a lot of people left. The result is this empty mapped, weird combat, bad AI muck game. From time to time, there's something cool in it. The vampires I like. They got pretty decent designs. I guess that's kind of it. I really don't remember a lot of other good stuff. This game, it's sad that it sucks, because honestly, it could have been really cool.
Ich habe halt sehr viel von den Bugs mitbekommen, die es da hatte. Und dass es halt kein guter Shooter ist. Was ich ehrlich gesagt schade fand, weil von dem Konzept her, was gerade der erste Trailer sah ja mega aus, aber von dem Konzept her, was dann in späteren Trailern durchschien, sah es halt aus, als würde es ein gutes Spiel werden.
If it had just been designed as an arcane game, but And number 6 is Wanted Dead, a game that has a little bit more mixed of a reception than some of the games we have
Da dachte ich auch, dass das ein cooles Spiel werden könnte.
discussed up to this point. It's kind of a throwback action game. Goofy as hell. This is one of those games that, I find it hard to hate. It sucks. Hard. But I kind of love it, too. It is firmly set in that so bad it's good area. Everything about this is great. In terms of gameplay, there's some alright stuff in the combat. It's pretty repetitive, though. And there's elements of it like checkpoint placement and other weirdness that, they firmly stop it from being good. The story is frickin' bizarre. I mean, if there is a game that could have been directed...
Aber die Trailer sahen schon sehr bizarr aus. Da hätte ich ehrlich gesagt nichts anderes erwartet.
By Tommy Wiseau, the Room Guy. Oh boy, it's Wanted Dead. There's a weird charm.
Aber wieso das höher ist als... Ich glaube, das ist keine akkurate Platzierung. Beziehungsweise die wollten keine akkuraten Platzierungen haben. Sie wollten mit starken Spielen starten, in dem Sinne, dass sofort die Aufmerksamkeit da ist. Und welches Spiel könnte denn noch schlechter sein als The Day Before?
Charm to it, but it's very weird. And that charm does not come from, the fact that it's very well made at all, even a little. I don't know. In no way do I feel even a little bit weird about including this on a list of games that sucked. However, I also like it with a lot of obvious caveats. And number 5 is Crime Boss Rocket City, a game that sold itself on a star-studded cast. And
das ist ja alle so überrascht. Was ist das denn? Boah, das sieht so geil aus, das GTA, was wir wollen und so weiter. Und dann ist es sehr schnell ersichtlich geworden. Das ist scheiße.
Yeah, that's about what it has going for it. I'm not gonna lie and say it doesn't have at least somewhat of a unique charm to it. Maybe the kind of weirdness you expect from a cheap B movie. Not quite so bad it's good. It kind of knows what it is, and it embodies that in terms of its aesthetic choices. However, the game sucks. The AI for like regular enemies, for police, it's bad. And when I say bad, I don't just mean like it's weak. It is weak, but it often flat out does things that remind you, hey, there are games from 20 years ago that did AI like good. It's one of those. It's got that feeling to it. I mean, it basically tries to be this unique roguelike crime game, but it falls very short. When you have a game that just sucks, it doesn't really matter how fun and charming the celebrities are, and there are times when they're uniquely very much that. I mean, you know it's crime boss Rocky City the whole time, that's for sure, but everything else about it it sucks. Like, it looks like it should be like a Grand Theft Auto style game, right? And the marketing kind of leaned into that a little bit. It was like, oh, Cyberpunk wasn't that first-person future neon Grand Theft Auto you.
Doch, also im Nachhinein schon. Nach dem ersten Ding war Cyberpunk genau das.
Expected it to be, so crime boss Rocky City, except it's not even anything like that. It's just it's like a mission-based roguelike-ish game. And number 4 is
Das ist natürlich nicht so gut.
Lord of the Rings Gollum. I mean, it certainly wasn't the only high-profile game of the year that
Okay. Dann hätte ich wenigstens das auf 1 gearbeitet, aber mein Gott.
was so bad it caused the studio to close, but it's certainly the one that is set in the most beloved IP that no one wants to see ruined. Like, this is a game about Gollum, and it's not an action game, so you'd think, well, probably a good idea to explore the character of Gollum. You would think that, yes. That would be a thought. You're using your brain there. Yeah, it's not that. You got a real bad, buggy crap fest where nothing happens. You don't explore the character Gollum. You're supposed to explore a bunch of really bland environments. A lot of bugs, a lot of technical problems. Don't really know what justified the length of the development cycle on this one. It very much feels like a game that was developed in about 8 months. And I'm talking like look, feel, objectives, AI, game loop. Like there's nothing that seems fleshed out or well done. There's a couple of like all right visual moments. Hooray. And number 3 is
Die armen Entwickler, ne?
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3's campaign. Not the multiplayer. The multiplayer is actually pretty great. Like the multiplayer. It's fine. And there's aspects of the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 campaign that are nice. The production values are freaking incredible. In terms of the visuals, the animation, the actor performances, just everything about it looks, feels, and presents very well. But I mean, there's 2 prongs to what's wrong with this campaign. First off, it's very linear, and I am not somebody who normally criticizes linear as a problem. When a studio decides to go linear, it usually means they're going to use the resources to make the best possible linear progression of events they can. And that's not what happened here, at least outside of production values. It's kind of just dull, uninspired.
Wieso ist das? Okay, nee, ich habe den Punkt da nicht gesehen. Call of Duty ist halt auch so eine Reihe, die mich absolut nicht interessiert, weshalb ich auch wenig dazu sagen kann, um ehrlich zu sein. Es interessiert mich einfach nicht. Wobei die Kampagne, ich hatte ja hier Advanced Warfare, die war ganz cool, aber eher, weil Kevin Spacey dabei war und der halt seinen Job auch in diesem Spiel gut gemacht hat.
Doesn't have a lot of depth, very simple narrative, weirdly simple narrative, honestly. And then the second prong is the gameplay mechanics are pretty muddled. A lot of the time, you're kind of feeling like you're supposed to choose between stealth and combat, and you're not really sure what you're supposed to do, and not in an open-ended way. Like I said, this game is
Ich dachte, Call of Duty ist immer Shoot. Was für Anschleichen, Digga.
linear. If like either was a good choice, this probably wouldn't be the same kind of a problem, but it's not like that. You are supposed to do one of them, and it's almost never clear which one. I mean, it's just like in terms of gameplay, it's not cohesive at all, and in terms of narrative, it is not that interesting. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful game. It's just very, very clear that that's where the effort went. And number 2 is Forspoken, a game that
Das ist jetzt aber hart für Nummer 2.
has a mechanic that's awesome. They have this really cool way of traversing a map. It's fluid and cool in a way. I don't know if I've ever seen anything exactly like it. I've seen things in the area of it.
Ich glaube, wenn es für 30 Euro und darunter angeboten wird, würde ich es mir nochmal überlegen zu kaufen. Weil es ist ja nicht so schlecht, wie es dann teilweise auch gemacht wird. Also, ne? In dem Sinne, ne? Man hat sich wahrscheinlich einfach was anderes
But
erhofft.
that's kind of where the positives end. I almost don't even understand why that's in the game. It doesn't really figure into anything. It doesn't figure into the story. The traversal just doesn't matter to the character or the stakes that are established.
Der Charakter ist natürlich auch noch scheiße dargestellt. Das, ja.
Which are supposedly significant, but don't feel that way. I mean, so I kind of want to make this point. The lore of the world in Forspoken is actually kind of cool. But if you've ever seen like a movie with overly expository dialogue where they're just like constantly telling the viewer what's going on, that's what this game feels like. So it kind of squanders all that decent lore. Really squandered is probably the right word for Forspoken. They squandered a twist, squandered a parkour mechanic. Just a lot of squandering going on. Also, the name Forspoken on the surface level sounds like a decent descriptor because the word means to cast a spell over or enchant. And you can actually apply that to the story in more than one way. Firstly, this woman from New York gets sucked into a dimension with magic. Secondly, she is bewitched by immoderate praise, another definition of forspeak. And that leads to the twist ultimately. But it's squandered is the right word. Squandered. That and holy hell, I am a millennial. But wow, am I tired of people talking like millennials. Or at least how millennials supposedly talk. All this quippy ass dialogue, enough of it. Stop. We don't really talk like that. What is that?
I just move shit with my freaking mind.
And finally at
Sind wir doch mal ganz ehrlich, jeder würde so reagieren.
number 1, it's Payday 3. This one is a lot.
Unerwartet? Also ich habe gehört, dass es nicht so gut sein soll, aber Top 10 Games that sucked in 2023, da habe ich es jetzt trotzdem nicht kommen sehen und erst nicht auf der 1, aber wir haben ja schon mittlerweile festgestellt, dass diese Platzierung willkürlich ist. Weil, wenn man ehrlich ist, ist es 1 The Day Before, 2 Skull Island, 3 Lord of the Rings Gollum, 4 Redfall, ne, 4 Walking Dead Destiny, sorry, 5 Redfall, 6 würde ich dann sagen Wanted Dead, 7 Crime City Boss Rockay City, 8 ist, was haben wir hier nochmal? 8 würde ich sagen, dann Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, 9 würde ich sagen Forspoken und 10 Payday 3. Außer da kommt jetzt was ich halt noch gar nicht gehört habe.
More painful to talk about than any of the other ones, in my opinion. The rest of them are, well, some of them are disappointing, but most of them are very obviously what they are. Payday 3, on the other hand, is a big improvement in gunplay and stealth. In terms of gameplay, it's the most enjoyable Payday game yet. It's great. The combat is, it's
Was das? Hä?
a lot more fun. The stealth is a lot more fluid. It feels more flexible. I mean, there's a lot of good to talk about. But the problem is, at least back when it launched, I don't really know exactly how it's going right now. But when it was launched, there's some pretty bad AI issues. The mission objectives are pretty uninspired. And there's not a whole lot of different heists. On top of that, there's a fair amount of technical jitters and weirdness. But they came in addition to massive server issues.
Kann man also sagen, das Spiel ist langweilig.
Like, a lot of games launch with some bad server stuff, but it lasted long beyond the launch window. This is a game that, like, everything about it should be good, and as a basis for a game, it is good, but the fact that it's not everything it should be makes it suck. I am not ruling out the idea that this could one day not suck, and that is probably the only title on this list like that. In fact, it's even likely that one day Payday 3 will be good. It just ain't today. And that's all for today. Leave a comment, let us know.
Aber warum das dann auf die 1 packen? Ich würde immer noch sagen, Forspoken wird ein bisschen überhated, aber mittlerweile halt, glaube ich, auch nicht, weil es halt dann Skull Island, The Day Before, Walking Dead und Gollum gab. Aber trotzdem, ich finde, da gab's da gab's Besseres. Aber ja, das war trotzdem eine akkurate Liste. Viele Spiele, die ich auch hier erwartet habe. Und ja, ich glaube, mehr ist dem auch auf jeden Fall nicht hinzuzufügen.